Potter and Cedar. And, I don't know what we can do, but we have to do something. It's ridiculous. We've had them in, temporaries in for, temporaries went in 3 years in a row, and we still have to do something about it. Now, I don't know if we have to dig a hole 6 foot deep, so when the car goes by, he drops in, but we gotta do something. And, uh, if not, I'm afraid that the city's gonna be liable for somebody getting hurt. Thank you.
So far, I don't have a motion on the floor. Alderman Winger, Alderman Coles, do you have a motion?
I can make a motion. And just clarification on from what streets here. It's Windsor Street from Cedar to Potter, in between those two? Or,
From Cedar to
Cedar to
Central.
Central.
okay, keep it Cedar to Central? Okay. Cedar to Central. So, Gary? I'm sorry.
I mean, Cedar has been mentioned several times, and I know Cedar has long been in the conversation. We could also, looking at, the aerial photo, logically, mid-block between Potter and Windsor, you could do one on Cedar. Because that would be mid-block between the two intersections there.
Well, we gotta do something.
Well, I mean, that's a logical spot that you
All right?
could
That
back
would
up.
be good. Okay, fine. Let's do that. How's that?
So then I'll make the motion between Cedar and Potter?
Windsor Street between Cedar and Central,
Okay.
and then Cedar Avenue between Windsor and Potter.
And one on Potter, somewhere's on Potter.
That raises, because Potter's a long street.
No, it isn't. Not where the stop sign is.
Well, that might be a different issue then.
Okay, so Gary, the addition is Cedar Avenue between Windsor and Potter.
Yes.
Okay.
Is that your motion?
My motion is to recommend, or to approve the installation of permanent speed humps on Windsor Street between Cedar and Central, and also Cedar Avenue between Windsor and Potter, budget permitting, and inclusion into the fall 2007 street restructure project.
Is there a second
Second.
on the question? Alderman Wesley.
The question is, that's just the resurfacing we're doing for 2007, 2008, am I right? Is that where that's falling under? We
Yes,
aren't
sir.
doing any street projects. We aren't tearing apart any streets.
Only
will be
streets
part
that
of-
we're doing reconstruction on are within special service areas. Our project, our capital project this year is just a resurfacing project.
But
Correct.
will this fall under the resurfacing? or
Right, this
will
would
it
fall under that project.
Okay, thank you.
Anything further? Do any citizens wish to address this issue, Mr. Norris?
Thank you, Mayor. Gentlemen of the council, and ladies of the council, I should say, Mr. Williams, Ms. Seaver.
Thank you. Chief, I have been complaining for years about the corner of Cedar and Potter. I've lived there since my alderman decided he wanted to move to Barrington, and I took his house. Many of you guys knew him, and some of you are probably happy that he's gone. Maybe some of you would be happy if I would leave just as well, too. But I don't think so. I think I get along fine with just about everybody in Wooddale. I don't have any real enemies. What I do have are people out there that have a flagrant disregard for the laws of Wooddale, and it bugs me. It bugs me a lot. What Alderman Coles told you earlier was the honest-to-God truth. My son Sean came in the other day with his heart fluttering to the point where I thought he might be in need of going to the hospital because he was putting a golf ball in my yard, because we'd like him to learn that. We think there's money in it at some point. And the ball went in the street, which I knew it would, because that's what happens with kids. And he went out in the street, and he's smart enough, and I have yelled at him enough times to say, always look first. And he did look. And I believe his account of the story when he told me that, Dad, I went out there to get the ball, I looked, and this car came racing up, and he didn't stop for the stop sign and almost killed me. That's an honest-to-God true story. I'm not making this up. I was mad. He told me the car had a temporary license plate, meaning it was one of those paper tags. So somebody got a new vehicle and was out having fun riding around in our neighborhood. But it doesn't matter whether it's a new car or if it's somebody that's lived in the neighborhood for years. If any of my neighbors race around in the neighborhood, I don't care if they get tickets. I don't care if they go to jail for that matter. I have gone on record in the past as telling this council that if anyone hits my kids or my neighbors, I will physically kill them. I've been reprimanded and told, you can't say that to this council, and I've said, yes, I can. I am an attorney at law, and I know the penalty for killing somebody, but it is an emotion that really strikes at me to think that somebody could hit my kid or my neighbors' kids, because I love my neighbors and their kids. It is a bad situation out there. The chief has sent people out there in squad cars, and when he does, it slows them down temporarily. And I have said from day one, I have no disrespect for the City of Wooddale Police Department. I think they do a very admirable job. And while they're out there sitting there, which I consider a waste of their valuable time, slowing down people coming through there, I'm sure that temporarily stops people. But what happens is people can see the intersections are pretty open there, and what happens is people see, and when they don't notice the squad car there, or if they get the idea that it's only going to be there for an afternoon or maybe for a day at most, then they go back to their old usual ways of racing through those stop signs there. I have said for a number of years, the temporary bumps that are out there are a nuisance. Some of my own neighbors say, we don't like the noise it makes at night. And I said, I don't like the noise it makes at night, but if it slows somebody down so they don't hit one of the kids, aren't we better off for that, putting up with a little bit of noise? I don't like the sound of cicadas, but it's just something you have to put up with. The bumps, they don't really dissuade too many people, because people have found out that if you speed up, you can go right over them. And once they figured that out, they do it. And all deference to Gary and all his studied reports there. And I'm not going to disagree that his reports were written by lawyers and all these fine engineers and people like that. And I understand they say that you don't put speed humps at stop signs, but I can tell you this. Speed humps at stop signs, if you've got signs saying speed humps ahead, if anybody runs through a stop sign that's got a speed hump, let them sue the city. I will take it on pro bono to defend the city, although I'm sure Pat Baum would do an excellent job of defending the city. It's ludicrous to think that anybody would end up suing the city saying, God, I didn't know I could run a stop sign and tear up my transmission. They got to stop, but they don't. And that's why I've been complaining for years and years. I'm still complaining to you tonight in the most respectful of ways. What I'm asking you to do is not very hard. Now, Alderman Wesley, I appreciate the fact that you spotted right away that there wasn't money in the budget for this. And respectfully, council, some of you guys were here years ago when this all came up. This should have been on somebody's radar screen a long time ago, and somebody should have said, you know what, we really need to do something out there. We've had neighbors come out here. I look around, I see a few of my neighbors here tonight, but not very many. Some of them didn't even know that the council was going to vote on this issue tonight. We've had meetings. Alderman Coles had a meeting where a lot of the neighbors showed up, and some of them were really hot-headed and upset about things. I try not to be hot-headed. I just want to make my point, and that is you got to do the right thing. If somebody gets hurt out there, I've gone on record before saying, the city will be sued. So Gary, remember this. If somebody gets hit at that stop sign, I'll make sure that there's a lawsuit filed. And the reason I will is because I put the city on notice that this is a dangerous situation. That corner is dangerous. Cedar and Potter. When Cary Construction and that other development out of Franklin Park, whatever it was, came in and put those townhomes in, I was one of the guys that said, we're putting in too much density out there. You're going to put a lot of cars on the street, and we're going to have a lot of problems in our neighborhood. But we were assured that this wouldn't happen. You know what? Somebody lied. It wasn't you guys. The developer may have hoodwink some people that, well, there's not going to be that much traffic there. But you know what? There is. And I know who the people are. I can see their cars, and they live in that development, and they race through there. They're a different breed. They don't have to stop at stop signs. And every time I'm out there, because I'm an assistant baseball coach for my son's team in Wooddale, the Wooddale Braves, every time I'm out in the yard throwing that baseball and I see those cars come up, I literally go out there with the baseball and threaten to throw it at them until they slow down. If I give them dirty looks, they slow down. If I don't, or if I don't yell at them, they don't slow down. And I know who they are. I've thought about putting cameras out there. I could embarrass people by saying, look, I've done my own little study. It's not scientific. It doesn't have a time-lapse photography thing on here. But look, here are these idiots running through here. Now, I can tell you who they are. The chief could look up their license plates. But I don't think that's really the right way to go about things. I think a passive way of doing it is to put it out there. Stop signs are there. Everybody knows you're supposed to stop at them. It's the rules of the road. We all learned that. But obviously, there are some people that forget that stop signs really mean you're supposed to stop. And I, again, do not think that the chief should spend officers' time hanging around my neighborhood. Wooddale's big enough, especially now you got all those homes down there on Devon, that you got a lot more area to cover. And with the price of gas these days, I'm not in favor of having people hanging out on my street just waiting for people to blow through signs. Again, I don't think it's that effective, and it's no disrespect to you, Chief. I just don't think that I don't think their habits change that well. And again, Gary, no disrespect to your reports that are sitting there in all published form, but really, if you put something there in front of the stop sign and a sign that said speed humps ahead and they see the stop sign, then they're supposed to stop. Let them stop. Now, it's very ironic that today's papers, I have the Sun-Times right here, disturbing apology for Maya. This is Maya Hirsch, the little 4-year-old girl that got killed by a driver who said, I didn't see the stop sign. This was the case in Lincoln Park. The Tribune wasn't front page. It was only front page of the Metro section, which is their section 2. But the Sun-Times was very clear about it. Disturbing apology for Maya. I don't want to read you what was said in there. Probably most of you have read it already. But the important operative facts here is that a guy ran a stop sign, didn't know that a child was there, and dragged her until she died. The mother was there, the sister was there. They were both hit by that same car. And he said, I didn't see the stop sign. Obviously, there are a lot of people in my neighborhood that don't see the same stop signs. And for what it's worth, there are no trees obstructing those stop signs. So I'm at a loss as to explain why people can't stop at a stop sign. And I thought, well, maybe I could come to the council and say, can we get those little glowing lights that say, stop, stop, stop? And I thought, well, that's kind of a nuisance too, because now you have those flashing at all hours and it almost looked like Vegas with the casino night or something. But that's not the way to go either. A bit of asphalt in a road construction project that's right in front of the stop signs is very passive. It doesn't make noise. There were people at the meeting that Alderman Coles held that said, we don't like those things because they make noise. And Alderman Coles tried, but there are some people with heads that are thicker than concrete, to explain to them speed humps are gradual. They don't make noise. I have friends that live on Forest View. I have been there. I love it over there. I drive down Forest View. I do my 20 miles an hour down there. And for anyone that would suggest that I do more than 20 miles an hour, and not to sound like Gary Hart, but I will tell you that, yes, I do 20 miles an hour in the neighborhood. Why? Because I know that I'm going to set the example. I've had cars tailing me, pushing me, trying to make me go faster. I refuse to go faster than 20 miles an hour. It's a neighborhood. It's a safe neighborhood. I want it to stay that way. And I'm asking you guys to do the right thing tonight. No pussyfooting about it at all. You need the asphalt out there in front of those stop signs. And just to make sure, Alderman Winger, that in terms of where they need to be placed, I have said from day one, and I thought that part of the deal with Cary Construction was we were going to make sure there was a hump right there to slow those people down coming out of there. I want them on all four corners of Cedar and Potter. I also think it would be a good deterrent to put them at all four corners of Cedar and Windsor, which would slow the people going back towards 83. I think that there should be one at Windsor and Central, and then to slow the speed of the traffic between the street and somewhere between the middle of Central and, say, Cedar. I think that would be an effective deterrent to the speeding out there. And yes, I do recognize that if you do that, that it'll probably shift. It'll probably shift traffic patterns. That means, and I was told, well, they'll probably go over to Sunnyside. So what? Then you get Sunnyside residents that'll say, hey, we're mad as hell, and we're not going to take it anymore, and let them put out their humps. And then if we got to do it all throughout Wooddale, who cares? And one other thing I wanted to point out, some foolish person at that meeting said, this will drive property values down because they're going to see those humps and know we've got bad neighborhoods. I'm a real estate tax assessment appeals attorney and a lobbyist for the Illinois Property Tax Lawyers. Property is my life, and I can tell you that property values do not go down with speed humps. If anything, property values go up because people now realize that this neighborhood is a lot safer and you're not going to have people racing through. And as I suggested to this one foolhardy soul, I said, people buy on cul-de-sacs and dead-end streets for that very reason. They don't want all the traffic there. They want to raise their kids, and they want to raise them safely. So again, I would just reiterate that you guys can do the right thing here tonight by following these recommendations. And I apologize to Gary over there, but all of these studies and everything else, they mean nothing, because if you put them out in the middle of the street and you expect the stop sign to work, it's not working now. So if you just slow people down in the middle, why would it do anything to slow them down at the stop signs? That's my true concern, and I ask that you guys do the right thing and support the motion from Alderman Winger and Alderman Coles. Thank you.
Does any other citizen wish to address this issue? Yes, sir.
I'll be brief. This council is doing the right thing tonight by entertaining this motion. I've lived on Windsor almost 8 years. In fact, I'm dead center in the middle of the block, and I can tell you that the efforts of the police are great. Every time we call, they come out. Every time we have a problem, they're there. The problem with calling the police is it's usually after something's happened. I've got 2 small children. Almost the entire block has turned over, and there are over a dozen children within 5 houses of me. And they always seem to be running across the street to each other. We want our block to be safe. And I've done years worth of research on this. There was a group of Oakland, California doctors did a 5-year study in Oakland, California. The children that lived on blocks where speed humps were installed were 53 to 60% less likely to be struck by a vehicle. That's hard numbers. This is in comparison to other streets in the same town over the same 5-year period. Another study that was done over 5 years in New York and in the United Kingdom showed that for the people who are worried about this increasing noise and being difficult on the ears on the block, that speed humps, the gradual humps that you drive over, decreased noise substantially on the streets where they were installed, both through decreased traffic and through slowed speeds. I'm here tonight not for me, but for my children. If it were me, I don't need to go up and down over a speed hump every day, but I'm the second human speed bump on our block next to John. I drive 20 miles an hour down our street because I know the value in being safe. I deeply appreciate Alderman Coles and all the aldermen and Mayor Johnson for listening to this tonight. That's why I've come out time after time, and I urge you to take this action to protect our children. Thank you.
Does any other citizen wish to address this issue? Anyone else on the city council? Roll call.
Alderman Coles?
Yes.
Alderman Police?
Yes.
Alderman Knight?
Yes.
Alderman Canella?
Yes.
Alderman Shockey?
Yes.
Alderman Winger,
Yes.
Alderman Wesley,
Yes.
Alderman Lubaton,
Yes.
That passes? You're welcome. Alderman Winger?
There actually is another item in my report. I was looking at a different version of the agenda. Item number 2 is train station reconstruction discussion, and I'll hand it over to Mr. Mayor.
Actually, Gary, could you give us a brief update, and then we'll get into a general discussion?
But, can I give a clarification of the last motion was Windsor Street between Cedar and Central, and Cedar between Potter and Windsor. No mention of anything at the intersection of Cedar and Potter.
I would ask Alderman Winger, though, to bring that up as a future committee meeting item, and we can take a second look at that. That's correct. Could you give us an update on the status of the train station?
I will give you an update on the status of the trains.
Yeah, that's fine.
Bring it up.
This is an item that is on the agenda eventually will be out in your packets, I think tomorrow morning, and go out for the committee. We did have a second bid opening for the train depot project on May 29th, which was a week ago last Tuesday. Projects came in, and I want to briefly summarize this, and I'll go through it more detail next week. With the bid alternates that were out there, the total contract is going to be about approximately $590,000. That's approximately $200,000 more than what's in the current budget. That's after going once, twice, 3 times, 4 times to various contractors, and I'll go again more on that in detail next week. I think after counting the bushes and after going through those contractors and after talking with those contractors and looking at all the alternates, we're all in agreement that the plans and specifications as sent out for bid are a $600,000 job. And that's what they are. And the architect recognizes that is more than, considerably more than what they had estimated. And they acknowledge that. Question will be, and again, I don't know how much detail we want to get into tonight is the next step at this point in time. What the next step is. So, I see the staff recommendations, I don't know how much.
Alderman Wesley?
Are you agreeing to staff recommendation? What is the staff recommendation, may I ask?
Staff recommendation is to proceed forward with the project using fund balance in the commuter parking lot fund, which that fund balance is currently $623,000 in the current budget. So utilize $200,000 of that to go forward and build this project.
Okay, Mr. Mayor,
Alderman Wesley?
couple things. First off, one thing I'm a little perturbed on this whole train scenarios. We never seen the proposed budget on who bidded for the project from the first set of bids, okay?
I think that we gave you that bid.
No.
Yeah, we did.
Well, I never seen it.
Because that was at the April 12th meeting, and that's when council or the committee then directed staff to go out for rebid.
Well, maybe I wasn't at that meeting. I apologize if I wasn't. Sir, second of all, are we going to see these bids for the next one?
That should be in your packet there.
And who went out for the bids again? The same outfit that we hired, is that part of their contract to get the bids to?
Administer the bidding process, yes.
Okay. I really think, before we do,
It's a public process that was advertised.
I totally understand that, but I really think, we need to see that contract.
Which
The
one?
contract from this outfit.
Okay.
Because I thought the original contract, and maybe I, in bad memory here, but I thought the contract was with them to do the design of the building, not to go out for, and we get charged for every time they go out for bid. I mean,
There's a 4-phase 4 phases. There was a programming phase,
Okay,
a design phase, a bidding phase, and a construction phase. So obviously, we're just finishing up the bidding phase.
but do we get charged twice for the bidding phase? For the first time that it went out for bid, and then do we disapprove a bill now for the second set of bids?
So that bill that you approved, and I can give you the breakdown on that bill, obviously I don't have it here in front of me tonight. They have spent countless hours themselves, and they recognized that, Alderman Wesley, that they needed to pound bushes on this. We're working under a not to exceed item, no matter how many times, it takes that. So the time that they spend, whether it be 10 hours or whether it be 100 hours, is not to exceed. So, from that perspective, are we paying them twice? No, we're paying them the not to exceed.
Alderman, please.
How many square feet is that train station? Or that building?
Same size.
Is it about 1,500 square feet inside?
What is it? I'm only guessing, so let me get that number.
Okay.
It's 12, 13 feet wide by 50 feet long, plus the overhangs then.
It's about the same size, but overhangs popped up.
We've added to the square footage.
I have just a simple comment. I mean, I know a couple of builders, and for $600,000, I know I can get a really nice house with granite countertops and everything, and not just 4 walls with an overhang.
Don't disagree with you. We built a 2-stall washroom facility right off the I-9 Canal Trail in Lockport with a federal grant. 2 stalls, men's and women's stalls, single stalls, not washrooms, but single stalls. And outside of that was a drinking fountain with a little overhang so that the walkers could stand there underneath the overhang. That building, 2 stalls and a little overhang, was $425,000.
No.
So I understand where you're coming from. The world of residential construction is completely different than sometimes these other projects. I know where you're going. We think the same, which is where the architect really was to begin. He was where you were, thinking that this was the cost structure. That's why going out not once, going out twice, and pounding the pavement, this is where we're at. And keep in mind that a typical depot of this size done by Metro, not done by the Wooddale, typical depot of this size done by Metro is in excess of $1 million. So we're actually very competitive on our price.
Gary, I want to follow up on Alderman Wesley's question. When we approved this architectural firm and their design, did we approve all 4 phases of the contract or just the design?
So that was the contract that we approved, was the 4-phase contract.
And do we have an option, if we choose to cancel at any one of the phases?
And I don't have that document in front of me tonight. That's one of the AIA documents. I can't answer that question tonight, but I can get that document for you.
Alderman Shockey?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to ask, because you say we have a not-to-exceed contract, and he's telling you we've got to exceed it by over $200,000. That doesn't make any sense at all.
His design contract, his professional services contract is a not-to-exceed contract. The excess of $200,000 came out of construction, the actual building itself.
But we were always led to believe by him that it was going to cost $400,000. And that, to me, is a verbal contract. I don't care what the contract we have with him is. We have a verbal contract for $400,000. He's going to bill it for that amount. If he can't do it, let him go bye-bye. And we'll find somebody else and get a general contractor or whatever and do it ourselves. I mean, this is silly to ask. I don't trust the guy anymore. I don't trust the word he says anymore. I mean, that's 50% additional that he's asking us for.
Wholeheartedly agree. I understand what you're saying. But on the other side of it, after sending it out for bid twice, after going to 30-plus general contractors, after going to 20-plus HVAC and 20-plus plumbing contractors, what makes us think that all of a sudden tomorrow, someone will ride in on a white horse and build the same project at the same specifications for $200,000 less?
But what makes him think that we would spend $600,000 on a train station when we had $450,000?
Well, that's a policy decision. That's what you guys have to decide. Do you want to make it a $600,000 project, or do you want to keep it a $400,000 project? If it stays a $400,000 project, that's gonna